I've started a new Google Sheet. So I have some other videos on how to do that step. But here is our blank spreadsheet. This is a Google Sheet, so it's online. It's going to save automatically. Up here in the top it says Untitled Spreadsheet, so I'm going to name this. And we're going to say Inventory List. So then I'm going to kind of set up our inventory list. Now, we're going to have some extra credit options. So I'm going to have probably 3 columns that you can use for extra credit. And then the rest are going to be the required steps for full credit. So our title first, let's do inventory list. And then we want to have some names. And so our header names, I'm going to have description, how many we have, so quantity, the cost, and then we'll say inventory value, and then reorder. So this reorder cell is going to be, or sorry, this column is going to be an extra credit column. And then let's set up this as our title. So I'm going to highlight or select A through E. We're going to merge and center. So where the arrows are pointing towards each other, it's your merge. Right? And then I'm going to center those. And so unlike Excel, we're going to manually edit this or format this first cell. So we can give it a background color. I'm going to go ahead and give it a lighter color. And then I can make it bold, so the B is for bold. And let's go ahead and underline it. So I'm going to open this borders part, and if I want the underline, it's going to be that bottom border. And then I can change the color of the border too. So if I wanted, let's see, a theme color, I'm going to pick one of the theme colors. And actually I probably should have picked a theme color for this one too, for the background. You can see at the top it says theme. So you can change your theme, and it's going to change, similar to what we saw in Excel, it's going to change the look and feel of your presentation. So I'm going to pick a theme. I'm going to pick this theme, and then there we go. Okay, so now we have these, and just like in Excel, we kind of have one going off. So let's go ahead and format it first, and then we will autofit. So I'm going to come up here, let's make them bold, let's make them centered, and let's put a bottom border again. This time let's pick a different color just because I want to. You don't have to, but I did. And then now let's go ahead and do the autofit. So, right, I'm going to have to click on A, drag all the way to E, and then hover in between the 2 letters. It's going to pop out blue for you. If I double click, it's going to autofit the column width just like we saw before. Now, I need to add actually 2 lines in between the title and our table. So I'm going to come to cell 2. I'm going to click on the number 2, and then with my, going to right click and say insert one above. And then I'm going to do that again. Right click, insert one above. That's because I want to add some information. So I want to say total inventory value, and then inventory items. Okay. Now I'm going to make these a little bit smaller. So I'm selecting A2 and B2. And let's change the font a little bit, make it smaller. And then I'm going to have to auto-fit these again. There we go. So these are going to be extra credit options if you want to do them. At the end, I'll go over what those are for. Okay. So now let's start to fill in our table. Right, this is going to look like a table. We're going to format it like a table. So for description, and these are just going to be super generic, I'm going to say item 1, then item 2. Now if I select these, I can go from that blue dot, so similar to the green dot we saw in Excel. That's our fill or copy, so I can drag that, and let's drag it all the way down to 15. So A15, let go, and you'll notice it actually counts for us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We didn't have to type that over and over and over. We can just start with the 1, 2. It gets the pattern, and it's going to finish it for us. Okay, so now let's go to the quantity, and I'm just going to type in some random numbers, because these aren't real items. We don't have a real inventory. Okay, and now we're going to go to the cost. Again, I'm just going to type in some random costs. So we'll say $30, 42, 15. I'm just going to keep typing. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, these are costs, so I'm going to get these to be the dollar sign. Alright, so I put $1 in front of it. And then the rest of these are going to be, instead of comma size, or comma, they're going to just be number. And you can see how it kind of gets squished off to this side, so let's fix that. I'm going to click on cell C and double click so that it expands column C. Now, column D, this formula should look familiar. I'm going to click equals, and I'm going to multiply the 20 times the 30. Okay, so $600. Just like we did before, I'm going to drag that formula down, and it's going to fill in the rest. But we need to do the formatting, so I'm going to select those, go to Format, and tell it to be their numbers. Yep. And so now you can see it puts the commas in the right place. We add some zeros, and so forth. So if this was going to stay this way, then I would only need the dollars in the first, but this is going to be a table. So that means I could be able to rearrange the order based on whatever I want. So I'm going to actually need to make all of these dollar signs. So I'm just going to select C5 to D15 and then click on the format as currency, the dollar sign. Okay, so now they all have dollar signs. So let's format this like a table a little bit. So I'm going to select A4 to E15. I'm going to come up to Format, and I'm going to say Alternating Colors. When I do that, I get a new pane over here, and it's kind of going to help me decide what kind of colors I should do. So we do have a header, we don't have a footer, so I'm going to just pick one. You go ahead and pick which one you like. And then you can see you can change the alternating colors here if you want to. We have the range right there. So then I'm going to press Done. So now we kind of have a table there. Okay. What I also want to do is kind of center these. So I'm going to select B5 to B15. I'm going to press those three dots. Sometimes, like here, I have random windows open. So I'm going to click here to align and center. Okay. So that kind of puts it in the middle. Now, the last thing that we're going to do for credit is select our table again. So A4 to E15. And I'm going to come to, let's see, data. So data is where we can kind of start to manipulate this, and you can see our different options. So in that format tab, or sorry, data tab, I'm going to name this table because I want to be able to get to this table easily. So I'm going to click on named ranges, and notice how there's no spaces, so we can't have any spaces. I'm going to name this inventory table. I'm going to click done, and now it's in that list. So now if I click away and click that again, it knows what cell selection I want. Okay. Let me close that pane. Now I'm going to go to data again, and we can start to sort this, filter this, lots of different things. So I'm going to say sort range. And we have a header. Header is that top row. And let's sort this by quantity. Okay, so I'm just going to say sort. So it sorted it from lowest quantity to biggest quantity. So we have the least amount of item 8 and the most amount of item 6. So I'm going to select my table again. I'm going to go back to that sort range, and this time make sure you say yes to have a header again. Let's sort by cost, and let's go from biggest to littlest. So this is from Z to A, biggest to littlest. I'm going to click sort, and now I have my most expensive item at the top and my least expensive at the bottom. Let's name this sheet. So I'm going to double click just like we saw earlier in Excel. I'm going to name this inventory. And then one last thing that we've done in Excel, let's add a chart. This can add charts too, so I'm going to click our range. I'm going to come to insert and then chart. So that should be similar. And we're going to be able to look at this and see what we want. Okay, so actually that's not what we wanted to do, so I deleted that. I just clicked on it and pressed delete on my keyboard. We want to highlight or select our items, press Control, let's select our inventory value, and then now let's insert a chart. So that should be familiar from our homework from last week. Okay, this looks more like what we've seen. Alright, so we can say combine them, all these different items, and now we can insert this chart. Okay. We could also, let's go ahead and cut this. So I'm going to get this chart and put it on another sheet. Okay, so I close that pane because we want to see these 3 dots. So I'm going to click on those 3 dots, and now we see move to own sheet. So it moves it to its own sheet. Let me delete that one. So I right clicked, press delete. You might not have that. But here we have chart 1. So I'm going to double click and call this inventory chart. And it already puts a title for us and so forth. We can edit the chart. You can do different themes. You can change the style, right? So there you have your minimal work for full credit. Now if you want to get extra credit, go ahead and play with this chart, right? You can edit the chart, and we can customize the chart style, play with the colors a little bit if you want to. And then I'm going to come back to the inventory, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the table. So for this total inventory, I'm going to say equals sum. So this time we're typing it out, and we want to add all of these inventory values. So I'm just going to select them all and press enter. For inventory items, very similar, I'm going to press equals sum, and then I'm going to select the quantities. Press enter. For reorder, this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to say if. So you'll see once I type if in the parenthesis, I get help. So this help is nice. If logical expression, so we're going to say if quantity is less than, let's say 20, then we want to tell it to reorder. Otherwise, we'll just do nothing. Well, this one is bigger than 20, so we do nothing. Drag this down. Okay, so these are the 2 reorders. Or sorry, 3 reorders. Last thing we can do is do a conditional formatting. So I can select that, go to Format, Conditional Formatting. And if the text contains, let's say reorder, then it's going to do a certain color. So I can come over here and decide, oh, this is super important, let's give it a bright color. That might have been a bad idea. Or you can tell it to be red. or it's kind of dangerous, things like that. Okay. So again, up here is that formula I was talking about. And then we did the total inventory. And I actually deleted this one because we want to do that formula again. So it's going to be equals count, and we're going to do A, and we're going to drag these so it can count how many there are. So we actually have 11 items. We weren't looking for the total inventory. Okay. So let me close that, and that is your it's still beginning, but it's a little bit more in depth introduction to Google Sheets. So we used a lot of what we did from Excel, but then we added things like table and sort, and then for extra credit we even did conditional formatting and some new formulas.